SPADES and well gone, family. I want to send love and greetings to all returning viewers and subscribers. And if you're new to this channel, I say karibu and welcome to the family. Ever since I initiated this journey, I've been wanting to call a spade a spade. And I would love for us to really understand why some of us in the West, especially in the US, why we sometimes call someone a spade. It's deep. But I've stayed away from this question because I think some of the things I could say might disturb some people, and I would not want that to turn anyone away from Seed for Africa, which is my singular focus on this platform. Now, I haven't posted anything for a while, so you could be wondering if this seed has failed to germinate and is now dead or probably dying. So I'm here to let you know that despite the silence, seed is very much alive and is at an interesting stage of its development. But when I was getting ready to record, it suddenly struck me that the question of what is a spade is really at the very root of what Seed for Africa is all about. So I now see why it is important for me to address the question, and I'm going to do that. But before I do, I must update you regarding seed. And I think the best way to update you will be to show you our website as it is now. I will come back to this fundamental question later. Of course, I could simply give you the website address for you to go and look at it, but I don't think that would really cut it. I think most people don't properly read through a website. They just quickly scan through it. But my intention here is for us to fully digest the essence of Seed for Africa. And so I would like us to go through the site's homepage together. You see me? The page starts with Seed's branding and with a message from Steel Pulse, who were our first patrons. But let us now just kick back and listen to AI read to us what the page actually says.
The need for seed. All the major charity organisations that offer aid support to Africa are white-led. While this generosity is appreciated by all, it also serves to cement the view that the African race is hopelessly incapable of supporting itself without assistance from others. We assert that this subliminal message, though perhaps not intended, has an extremely negative psychological effect on the race as a whole worldwide. The material benefits derived from the aid received cannot compensate for this sense of being second-class members of the human family who are eternally dependent on the more competent people of other races. To reverse this negative effect, there needs to be a highly visible, black-led, black-run, worldwide organisation making a major contribution to aid efforts in Africa. Black people need to be seen to be contributing. If black people who can afford to help Africa are not prepared to do so, then why should others? And what would it say about those who can afford to help but choose not to? There is a significant number of black sportspersons, entertainers, entrepreneurs, etc., scattered across the globe. If each were to contribute a reasonable proportion of his or her income to this cause, such an array of black icons could collectively maintain a substantial level of support for Africa. Such organised black support would remove the silent perception that black people are totally dependent on others. Moreover, the high profile maintained by each of these stars would guarantee the global recognition needed and deserved by this organised effort. With such an organisation acting to engage in the issues of Africa today, there would be a major shift in the way that black people see themselves and each other. Now below is a clip from another of our patrons, Benjamin Zephaniah, rest in power. The clip is from the end of our film, The African Safari.
So there you have it. The film speaks for itself. You have heard the call. My name is Benjamin Zephaniah, and I am now going to tell you how you can make a real positive difference to people of African descent worldwide.
Benji declared, "I am with SEED because it recognises that we have responsibilities for each other. The time has come. We owe it to ourselves." And we have here some merchandise for you. We offer 3 t-shirts which can be ordered in different sizes and colours. Plus, the African Safari DVD was produced by SEED for Africa in 2004, and although it was not about reggae music, we were invited as special guests to show it at the first Reggae Film Festival in Jamaica in 2008. And for it to be presented by Lorna Golding, who was Jamaica's First Lady at the time. We now offer this film documentary as a free download to all our Patreon subscribers. Here are a few comments by those who have seen the film. "Your documentary on our story, including Marcus Garvey, is well done and a joy to behold. The children of the world must see it and know. Sister Mariamne Samad of the Taborian Study Circle, Marcus Garvey, University, New York." This documentary should be widely distributed and made available to schools and universities. Really powerful. Roger Hilton, undergraduate, Sussex University, UK. A real eye-opener. Very inspiring, brilliant. Reverend Norman Gooden, Church of God. "You have done a fabulous job. Your narrative was measured, scholarly and focused." Dalton Barrett, solicitor. Okay, I've described the site's homepage in detail, and I will now briefly summarise the next 4 pages. To clear up a misunderstanding that could possibly develop, the page starts by stating that SEED is not anti-white, but simply pro-black. Other aid organisations will accept donations from anyone regardless of race. Likewise, SEED for Africa will encourage and welcome support from all people of goodwill, but SEED must be black-led and black-run. Regarding the question of whether or not what we have set out to do can be achieved, we answer with a quote from Marcus Garvey. He said, "If you have no confidence in self, you are twice defeated in the race of life. But with confidence, you have won even before you have started." Enough said. The next page addresses the question of how can our objectives be achieved, and here we list some of the things we will do. Our operations will include a who is who of black celebrities, which will present a profile of each celebrity and will indicate his or her response to SEED's clarion call. On the question of what's currently being done, page 4 states that although we have not yet sought or received financial support from any source, we currently offer on a small scale the kind of support we intend to offer on a larger scale in the near future. The page gives a few examples of the kind of support we have offered and then goes on to mention some of our outreach activities. Page 5 is about money matters, and because money does indeed matter, this page is more detailed than the others. It shows that the idea of SEED for Africa was conceived in late 2003, and the following year we went on to produce the African Safari DVD. But after 3 public showings of this documentary, we were being advised that we needed to become a registered charity, but we took a principled stance against doing so. Instead, SEED went into hibernation for 20 years until government rules changed to allow a limited company to accept donations. The page explains the reason we maintained this stance. It further showed another clip from the African Safari, where Giza and a sister in Tanzania discussed aid to Africa in a way that Western media are only now beginning to acknowledge. So as SEED now says, there is nothing more powerful than an idea whose time has come. Now, similar to what I did for the site's first page, I am now going to read directly from the final page, which talks about SEED's personnel and the way the organisation will operate. Here goes. Meet the team. Before listing the key members of our organisation, we feel it is important that we repeat here what Money Matters already said regarding our operational structure. It states, in order for us to fulfill our primary aim of mobilizing and organizing financial support for Africa and Africans by celebrities worldwide, it remained necessary for us to become an officially registered body. Therefore, SEED for Africa has now been incorporated as a limited company in the UK. That being the case, we will accept donations only from well-known celebrities and establishments, and we will publish a bi-monthly report that presents a running total of donations received and funds disbursed. Additionally, our annually audited and published accounts will show that 100% of donations received actually go towards supporting Africa and Africans. Our company's income will be derived from merchandise online and from other online activities. We now list below SEED's personnel. Godwin Graham, aka Giza, founder and CEO. Robert Lee, director. Abel Graham, T-shirt designer. Joki Chege, comms and PR. Idris Mohammed, East African Coordinator. Don Dada, Southern Africa Coordinator. For a more detailed profile of each member of the team, you can visit seedforafrica.org/theteam.html. In addition to the 6 core members mentioned above, we want to acknowledge another 4 individuals who have been supportive in one way or another throughout our development and will almost certainly become more actively engaged in the near future. In no particular order, they are Stephen Golding, broadcaster and UNIA president in Jamaica. Selwyn Brown, original and still member of Steel Pulse. Lumba Sabhuza, sound engineer and sound system operator in Birmingham, UK. Dennis, aka Sugar Christopher, entrepreneur and community activist in Leicester, UK. And now, a final note regarding the way we operate. At the moment, our team has only 6 core members, and apart from Giza, each has other commitments. So, while we desire to see African countries and communities develop economically and positively without reliance on Western aid, we do not intend, nor do we have the capacity, to implement programs that could achieve these long-term objectives. Instead, we will be a black-run centralized organ through which high-profile agencies and individuals can channel support for Africa and Africans. We will disperse those funds to bodies and individuals who meet our vetting criteria. Please email us if you would like to request our support, and we will respond with details of our support procedures. Well, that's all from me, your AI reader. We hope you have not been put off by listening to artificial intelligence, reading to you what Giza scripted. Instead, SEED hopes you will understand and overstand that every word from this artificial intelligence reader was written from Giza's natural intelligence. SEED further hopes that you will warm to SEED's forward-looking and innovative approach, and will now be keen to get on board this journey into a better tomorrow for us all. All that is now left for me to say is walk good and bless up yourself.
Okay. I realize that AI readers are now really quite common, but I imagine that having an entire website read to you along with an active display of the site itself was probably a totally new experience, and so it made you completely forget the question which started the video in the first place? Well, you might have forgotten, but this spade hasn't. So I'm now going to address the question. But before I get into it, I'm going to point out that I have a general policy of not making my videos too long. And it is now about 15 minutes in length. So I initially decided to end it here with a firm promise that I will address the issue in my next video, which would come in very quick order. With that in mind, I sent the video as it is at this point to a few people to get their feedback. One suggested that, having said at the beginning that I'm going to deal with the question, to then not do that would not be a good idea. I agreed. And so I decided on a compromise. I will say enough on the subject to give you a feel for what it's about, and then offer to expand on it in the next video. All right? I'm going to start by saying something about Jamaica. That's where I was born in the late 1940s, and where I lived for the first 18 years of my life. I can therefore talk broadly and in depth about what life was like in Jamaica during the 1950s and 60s. But for this discussion, I'm first going to talk specifically about something that young people growing up in that era used to experience, and perhaps still do to some extent. If your parents or guardians seriously wanted to chastise you, they would often send you to get the belt or the switch that they are going to beat you with. Unless you have experienced this before, I don't think you can really imagine what that was like. It's not nice. No, sir. But as a child, you live with it. It's just a part of life, which otherwise was full of plenty to love and enjoy. Anyway, after I moved to the UK, one night I was watching on TV the iconic Black American comedian Richard Pryor, and this was part of his stand-up routine.
My grandmother's the lady who used to discipline me, right? You know, beat my ass. Anyone here remember them switches? Right, you used to have to go get off the tree yourself and take them leaves like that. I see them trees today, I will kill one of them motherfuckers. I will stop the car and say, wait, hold it, Jeff, listen, you ain't never gonna grow up. You won't be beating nobody's ass. Right, because that's some hell. Do I have a tumor or did it get dark in here? Because that's some hell of a psychology, right? To make you go get a switch to beat your own ass with. Right? My grandma said, boy, go get me something to beat your ass with. And that would be the longest walk in the world, right? To be done. And you be thinking all kind of shit, right? Because you know you done fucked up, Jack. Maybe it'll snow before I get there or something. Maybe she'll have a heart attack, won't be able to whoop me. I don't want to get no she's going to tear it up or no one. And you know you couldn't come back with no little switch, right? Because if you did, she'd go out and get the tree and beat your ass with it, right? You'd be like, please, I don't want to get a woman. And you get them switches and they start cutting the wind on the way home right here. Make you start crying before you get in the house. Like, Mama!
I saw the Richard Pryor show about 50 years ago, and I've never forgotten it. Not simply because it was funny. Yeah, it was funny for true. But the real reason it has lived with me for all this time is because it said something to me that I just couldn't get my head around. It told me that when I was growing up, black kids in the US were experiencing the exact same trauma that kids in Jamaica had to endure. And right now, I have little doubt that this applied to youth in other Caribbean islands. But how come? It wasn't as if there were cultural exchanges between blacks in the US and blacks in the Caribbean, where parents would discuss the best way to bring up their children. No. So how come this very bizarre practice was apparently common across black societies in the West? Well, some years after seeing Richard Pryor joking about this, I came across an article. I can't remember where exactly. And I've searched Google, but no matter what I've typed in so far, I've not yet found it. In fact, I think I was extremely lucky to find the particular clip of Richard Pryor. It felt like striking gold. Anyway, the article I'm talking about also said something that I've never forgotten. It said that during slavery, when a slave was to be punished, the slave master or the overseer or the slave driver would oftentimes send the slave to get the whip. Oh, so that's where the idea came from. Now, over the past half a century or so, societies have generally moved away from beating children. And so the practice seems to have decreased significantly. Additionally, even though black communities apparently carried on this practice for a few centuries, it largely only affected the relationship between children and parents and did not have any noticeable impact on the community as a whole. So I started the discussion with this example simply because it so clearly highlights the fact that the past can affect the present in ways that we are totally unaware of. But I'm now going to point to a practice from slavery and colonization, which has had a devastating effect on the entire African race and is still front and center of our everyday life, even as I speak. I mentioned earlier that whippings were administered by either the slave holder, the overseer, or the slave driver. But until quite recently, I thought that the term slave driver was simply a general term used to refer to someone who's in a position to push someone to work harder than they would otherwise. But I've now come to learn that a slave driver was himself a slave who had been selected by the slave owner or the overseer to whip his fellow slaves. You might know that a house slave was one who had privileges that those working in the fields didn't. Well, so did the slave driver. To retain his privileged status, he would often feel the need to show that he is doing a good job by flogging more brutally than even the master or the overseer. This syndrome of slave driver versus the majority of those enslaved is prevalent today in black communities around the world. And in forthcoming videos, we will look at a very clear example of this, plus various other aspects of slavery and colonization, which have shaped the way we think and behave in this, the 21st century. Well, that's about it from me for now. And I want to thank you for staying with me up until now. And I'll ask you to please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done so, and to like and share this video with everyone you feel you can reach. Let us grow the family, okay? Okay. And finally, I must dedicate this video to the elder Ras Logeron Jaden, who was laid to rest on Saturday, May 17th. Brother Logeron was a real soldier and a stalwart of the Haile Selassie Foundation in Kenya. I, for one, was pleasantly and more than presently, I was very surprised to see African brothers of various religious persuasions attend his funeral to offer words of honor and respect to this Rastafari elder. Although I'm not versed in Swahili, I know that their presence and whatever they said was far more significant than anything that I could say. I will therefore say no more. So until I come forward again, I'm gone.